Monday, and that music gets me going every time. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Megs. Here with the wonderful Nat. This is After Action Report, the numbers recap show for all Schmoedown matches to keep you caught up on all the action. Nat, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I completely forgot that I was going to be on screen because usually we have three people here and you pull me up later, but here I am.
There you are. Hey, you weren't doing anything totally embarrassing, so not too unusual for us. But anyways, we are going to be recapping all the matches from this past week. There were no pay-per-views, so no spoilers for any of that. But this will be a good way for you to get caught up before we just had the $10 patrons get the first match of this week, actually just before we went live. So really awesome to see that. So be sure and check that out if you have that option. But we're going to be going back to the beginning of this week, and we are beginning of last week, and we're going to be looking at two rookies, Peggy Gubbins going up against Paige Fabretti. And then we had Inner Geekdom, Alex Damon versus Barbarian, and a number one contenders match against Shazam and Final Exam in the teams division, first teams match of this season. And what we're going to be looking at kind of towards the end of the show is there were some chances for competitors that were behind to make comebacks going into that final round. So we're going to be looking at some of the significant amount of points that a competitor has come back from to win a match based on the different divisions. But that'll be towards the end of our show. But let's go ahead and jump into what we had this week. First off, we had, again, Peggy Gubbins representing the Den against Boston Badass Paige Fabretti, and boy, was she coming in with some fire this week, representing the usual suspects. Starting off, getting into a round one, we had Fabretti up by 2, 6-4, going into round two. Gubbins having some stumbles there in that first round, where Fabretti decides to spin first. She spins away from Westerns and ends up taking mystery films, where she goes 7 for 8, only checking down to multiple choice once there in that third question. And it then bounces over to Peggy, who takes Oprah, or Oprah Winfrey, on her first spin. It's a new slice that we haven't seen yet. And she sweeps the round for all 8 points, which gives Peggy a gain of 1 point, but still has Fabretti up by 1, 13-12, going into the final round, where Peggy goes up first, hitting her 2-pointer in Disaster Films, bouncing it back over to Paige, who hits her 2-pointer in Thrillers. Peggy responds by hitting her 3-pointer in Disney, and Fabretti is unable to hit a 3 or 5-pointer in War Films and 2010s, respectively, which gives Peggy the win with a final score of 17-15, where Peggy Gubbins answered 10 of 14 questions for 71% accuracy and scored 77% of 22 available points. Paige Fabretti answered 11 of 15 questions for 73% accuracy and scored 56% of 27 available points. So looking at some of the rookies that we've seen come into the match or the league so far this year, we've been seeing some kind of mixed reaction as far as percentages and impressibility of performances. But this was, while not the highest percentage that we've seen out of some of these rookies, still a solid performance coming out of both of these. Nat, what were kind of your thoughts going into this match?
Yeah, not the most impressive accuracy, but you have to remember these are both of their debuts. So you have to take that into account. There's a lot of pressure, and I think they both performed really well. I think Peggy is automatically a fan favorite from that video package we saw from their chronic. Like, how could you not root for her after that? And Paige, my God, she is indeed a badass. She's already my favorite person from Boston. The bar is pretty low, but she's my favorite. I thought it was a great match. I think that Paige played really well. It was just those round 3 questions that did her in. And props to Peggy for sticking in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And her manager, Kate, definitely doing a great job keeping her engaged in the game. She definitely was an instrumental part in keeping that locked in sensation going. And I really think, Peggy just had some of those early stumbles in round 1. But after that, she was solid accuracy for the rest of the match. So now that both of these ladies have gotten that first match under their belt, I think it is definitely going to be exciting to see where they end up next here in their next match.
I'm also very excited to see how Kate does the rest of the season, because we saw last season she had a couple of mistakes. She had a couple of missteps. I think she has improved so much this season, and this match is clearly evident of that. So I'm very excited to see what she does in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Kate has definitely changed her attitude as well as her approach to how she's managing this season, and I am definitely excited to see how that goes. Everybody, thanks to all of you that are joining in. Hi to Ben, Manny, Danny. Great to see you guys in here. We're going to go ahead and move over in. We are going to go ahead and shoot over to our next match from this week, or from last week, which was Alex the Demon Damon versus the Barbarian. Alex Damon just coming off of losing his Star Wars belt, which made for a very interesting dynamic of how he approached this match and his kind of demeanor throughout the whole match, which if you want to hear more about kind of the kayfabe side of this game, be sure to check out whenever Call Live is on, and we tend to do a lot of really good analysis on what the game looks like, talking about character work. But today we're going to be focusing in on what these numbers looked like. So when we were in round 1, we saw that they were tied at 8. Now, Alex was well on his way to ending up with a perfect round, with Barbarian missing a couple early ones there, but Damon does miss those 2 questions on Middle-earth and comic book movies, which takes away that perfect round 1 opportunity, but still both of them solid 8s coming out of there, to where Alex defers over to Barbarian to spin first, and he chooses to take Spider-Man from his first spin. This is where things start to get a little bit more shaky here for the Barbarian, where he has to check down the multiple choice twice, the first question as well as the 5th question, only able to come out with 6 out of 8 points, giving up 2 1-point steals that Alex Damon does pick up. And Damon has his first spin, and it lands on Star Wars. Kind of a, I love the dynamic of him thinking for a hot second that he was going to spin away from it, but he chose to stay with it. And not surprising, being the former champion by no lack of bulk knowledge, he comes out with sweeping the round 10 for 10. Which puts Damon up by 6 points, 20-14, going into this final round. Now, this is where things really show the tenacity of the Barbarian. He stays locked in. He answers all 3 questions, his 2, his 3, and his 5, in Transformers, Marvel, and Spider-Man, respectively, which bounces it back over to Alex Damon, who hits a 2-pointer in Swashbuckling Adventure, misses a 3-pointer in Star Trek, and hits a 5-pointer in Jurassic Park, which does give him the win with a final score of 27-24, where Alex Damon answered 17 of 20 questions for 85% accuracy and scored 82% of 33 available points. The Barbarian answered 14 of 18 questions for 78% accuracy and scored 77% of 31 available points. Now, we will talk about a little bit more about significant point values that people have been able to overcome, but this was impressive to see Barbarian push Alex to have to answer questions, because he was in a pretty deep hole coming into this round. And I think just the idea that he had a strong comeback, but it wasn't enough to solidify a chance with the level of play that Alex Damon has come up to over this season, as well as those 2 steals in round 1, and Damon able to go perfect in his own round 2. Anything stand out to you from this match?
A little bit of bad luck for the Barbarian in round 2, but these 2 are just not human. I remember back at the awards, the draft, where we won our first award. I was talking to the Barbarian before anyone who he was, and I asked him, "What division are you going to play in?" And he said, "I want to do it all." And he's done it all. He's done team singles and intergeekdom. He's good at everything. I am so impressed by the Barbarian and everything he does that he was so close to the comeback. He went lights out in round 3. But Alex Damon, credit to him, he stayed in there. Again, Alex Damon can also do it all. I don't understand how you can be a champion, the most dominant champion in Star Wars division history, and still be this good at a complete different division. Like that's crazy to me that he can pull this off. So a testament to both of them.
Absolutely.
And it came down to the very last question. And not only did Alex Damon answer it, he did extra credit. He gave us more than we wanted.
Yes, Roxy definitely had some words for him about that in the post game. If you go back and watch that, which was kind of funny to watch. But just from a game play standpoint and strategy with his categories, his Star Trek question was to name a ship. How many other ships in Star Wars does he have rattling around in his head at the same time? So I think it was a gamble for him to just kind of toss away that 3-pointer, but he knew that if he used up JTEs, he probably wasn't going to get there in a quick time, at least from where his head was at that point. So he saved up JTEs because he knew he could just win it with the 5. He didn't need the 3 to win, which was a risk, because if you hit a 5-pointer you really don't know, you've just thrown away that chance. But he also was still in a good enough spot with enough cushion for him to be able to pull that off. And it was a question that he knew right off the bat. Just watching his dynamic and on his face when he heard that question, was like, I knew instantly he knew it. And he just rattled it all off. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna end with a statement. Very good. Yeah. But definitely no shade on the Barbarian. You know, he has had kind of some stumbles there in the IG as well as singles, but I think he is poised to make some big waves in this league, depending on what opportunities he is afforded by his faction, given that we have so many competitors on these factions now. It's going to be interesting to see kind of where he ends up focusing in on, as well as helping train all these other rookies. But let's go ahead, unless we had something else we wanted to add in about this match, we'll head over into our first teams match of the year.
Let's do it.
Which we had number 1 contender match, Shazam, former champions, against Final Exam, also very solid competitors with some history. Actually, they had played each other last season, with Shazam beating Final Exam to go on to also in another number 1 contender match, if I'm not mistaken. So a very similar situation for both of these competitors to be in going into the matches. But where we ended up to start with, we had where Shazam was up by 3, 14-11 going into round 2, where both Bibiani and Meyer got 7 points in that round. Oyama going perfect 8, but unable to hit the bonus question for the 9, and Lon only coming out with 3 points in that round 1, which puts it to where we come into round 2, where Shazam defers to Final Exam to go first. They spin away from wrestlers and film and end up with video game movies, where they get 9 for 12, giving up a 2-point steal, which Shazam is able to pick up. And they puts Shazam into their spin, which they take horror on their first spin, which is a big strength historically of Bibiani, where they are able to sweep the full 12 for 12, which gives Shazam a gain of 5 points, bringing it now up to an 8-point lead, 28-20, coming into round 3. Now, Lon Harris is able to pick up a 2-pointer in Denzel Washington. Unfortunately, Oyama is unable to answer a 3-pointer in Action Adventure, which does give Shazam the win via TKO 28-22, where Shazam answered 21 of 23 questions for 92% accuracy and scored 88% of 32 available points. Final Exam also answered 17 of 24 questions for 71% accuracy and scored 63% of 35 available points. This match, unfortunately, against a team like Shazam, you cannot afford to give up the points that they did in round one. You just saw them dominating there. I'm going to remove this because it's glitching on me. But the idea that there was one, you had Bibiani getting a total strength of his in round two, which is a problem in of itself, but the fact that you were already beating up a 4-point disadvantage from that round one, it just was too much for them to overcome, given there was too much damage done.
Yeah, this was a hard match to watch if you're a Final Exam fan, which I am. I'm also a fan of Shazam, but I think that, like you said, if you're playing a former championship team, then you can't have a bad game against them. That's because they will just take advantage right away. I didn't realize that Vaughn only scored 3 points there in round one. I think he's a very good player. He's just like Danny says in the chat. He's pretty inconsistent. So this was just one of those games where he just didn't have the ball, and that's unfortunate. I think they had some misses that were really tough misses, like the Doom question when they answered the Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He was in that movie. He just didn't play that character. So
absolutely, and then just answering a little too quickly. Yeah. But they recovered well. They were able to. They had to check down the multiple choice that next question, but they answered the remaining 2 questions for the full 2 points. So that was a critical mistake for sure. But the fact that Shazam was able to go perfect 12 for 12 in round 2 and the deficit they were already working with from round 1 just created too big of a mountain to climb there by the end. But definitely kudos on Final Exam for sticking out and having actually a decent round 2 there, considering that might not have been a category that they were hoping to get.
Mm-hmm. On any given day, I think either one of these teams could win. I just think on this specific day that Shazam was the better team, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
Absolutely. So that finishes out the matches from this week. But what we are going to do is we see how Final Exam was not able to overcome a significant deficit coming out of that second round into the final round, as well as Barbarian also having a similar problem where he had a deficit to overcome. We're going to be looking at some of the significant comebacks in a final round by division. So what we're looking at is what is the largest amount of point deficit that a competitor has come back from to beat an opponent being down in the round prior to going into that final third round or a championship round if we're talking about a championship match. So what I found, and everything is pretty much from 2020, 2020, or 2021, except for one match, which we'll get to when we talk about IG, but most of these are from very recent matches. Mm-hmm. In singles, we had James White coming back from a 5-point deficit in the 2020 tournament play-in match against Frank Moran. And if we're looking at third round matches in the teams division, the Witching Power comes back from a 7-point deficit in the play-in match of the tournament against the Misfits. Shifting over to IG, we had, and just earlier this year, last month, we saw Brandon Hanna come back from a 6-point deficit against Eric Zipper in a regular three round IG match. Star Wars gets a little tricky. It's very rare that that there is actually a deficit that someone comes back from. A 1-point deficit, Marie Wilson was able to pull out against Sean Sullivan. Otherwise, either you're tied going into that round or your opponent, the competitor that ends up winning, is ahead. You'll kind of see that trend in Star Wars when we get into the championship matches where Andrew De Milanta loses to Andres Cabrera by a 2-point deficit in the tournament final last year in 2020. Kind of going in snake reverse order, when we look at the 5-round IG matches, we had Mike Kalinowski losing despite having a 5-point lead, on Mara Knopik in the tournament final of 2018, which led to Knopik going in to beat Jason Inman for the title. Going over into teams, again, we had Shazam unfortunately being unable to clinch a win despite having a 6-point lead on the Odd Couple in the title match at Spectacular this past 2020 Spectacular season. And then when we're looking at singles, again, a title match in this last year, Merle versus Bateman 2, where Bateman had a 6-point lead going into that final round and was unable to answer some of those final questions. And Merle going perfect in that final round did give Merle the victory. So an interesting point with all of these, you have a significant lead that you have to overcome. However, the idea is that you have to also count on your opponent making mistakes, even if you go perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to like hope that your opponent misses. Like that's the only way you're gonna come back. You have to answer your questions right, and you have to like hope that they don't answer theirs correctly. This was about pretty much what I expected, because like you can't come back from a more than 10-point deficit going into the round.
10 point is considered a KO. So at the most, you would be able to come back from an 8 or 9, but that's significant. That's if your opponent gets no questions correct.
And you get all of them correct.
Right.
So, this is pretty much what I expected. I didn't think there would be a huge deficit in Star Wars. And
there's not.
Also, I kind of predicted it would be Zipper versus Hannah for round 3 matches and use them. So pretty much what I expected.
Yep, absolutely. And thanks, Ben, Nerds and Suits, for stopping by. Always nice to see you. But that is kind of the big stats fun that I pulled up, considering, we had some matches that came down to some pretty significant deficits. But this is kind of the reverse side, where people were able to overcome those deficits and come out with a win. But Nat, I think there was something that got missed earlier this week. How dare Call Live cancel knowing that the highlight of that show is a fantasy update? So Nat, why don't you go ahead and share that so we can get that taken care of?
You really can't stop the fantasy updates, and I think this is going to be pretty bad because I was not in a clear headspace yesterday. But let's play it anyway. Oh boy! You didn't think I forget, did you? You didn't think there was going to be a fancy update this week? Of course not. Of course not. I always come through. I am currently in Florida for Mike and Bethany's wedding. Congratulations, by the way. I was totally invited. I'm definitely there. I took some time out of my busy schedule, going to Disney World or whatever, to be here. So I hope you appreciate it. Don't mind that the background is exactly the same as in my house. It's just a coincidence, my Airbnb looks exactly like my house. But anyway, definitely in Florida, definitely catching some sun and going to the beach, whatever we do here in Florida. And you know what? Let's break down some fantasy, because that's what we're all here for. Right now, here at After Action Report, never done this here before. This is brand new because we didn't have a call live this week. But I didn't forget you fine people. Okay, so I told you to have faith in me. Peggy Gubbins, Paige for Betty, stole the show the entire week. I told you these two ladies are so good, and I understand that we're being kept down by the powers that be, that have forced these two to play each other. So there's guaranteed to be one loser, but they're both winners to me. All right, Paige, she's gonna be a champion eventually, hopefully this year, but if not, I'll just draft her again next year because I'm smarter than everyone I'm drafting with. So yeah, Paige for Betty, very good. Peggy Gubbins, also, Jesus, she's so good. I don't think people realize, like, when they were drafting. I'm sorry, I'm pretty high right now. I can't really think straight. But Peggy Gubbins is incredible. And I told you to draft her. I hope you did. Next match. Alex Daven versus the Barbarian. Very good match. I should have valued Alex Daven higher, but it wouldn't have mattered because he was drafted like first round. But he is a really big threat because he's in 2 divisions and he's good in both. So great job having Alex Daven, whoever has him. And the Barbarian is obviously extremely good. He plays in like what, 3 divisions? 3 divisions. That's huge. He's also good in all of them. So you should have him on your team. What's the next match? I'm doing this completely off of memory. I don't have the list in front of me. What is the next match? Oh, Final Exam versus Shazam. Obviously, all 4 of these people are going to put up some huge points. And you know what? I kind of forgot the bit I had with Danielle, and she's extremely attracted to me. You know what? I said I was going to bring it up every week. Let's change that because I know when bits have to die. Like, as the funniest member of Call Ashton, you have to understand when to let bits go. And I'm letting that bit go. I'm not in first place, but we're doing it anyway. We're letting it go. Speaking of bits that should die, you guys should check out AAA Live this Thursday. We're bringing it back for one special episode unless someone else gets like a bunch of subs on Twitch, which Ferris did, and that's why it's back. But we are going to be covering Lon Harris. Oh, we're going to be covering Alex Damon this week too, because we're going to be doing Alex Damon for How's My Kayfabe. We're going to break down his character, and also we are going to be telling you how to beat Lon Harris if you were a competitor. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good time. Me, Megs, and Dylan. Well, anyway, back to the match. They're all good. You should have them. You don't know much to say there. Congratulations to the team that won. Is it that was me trying to remember who won because this week has been a blur. Just been partying up here in Florida. But anyway, that's your fancy update for the week. I'll be back next week. If Call Live is canceled, I'll just do it on After Action Report with Meg's blessing. But yeah, what else what I was gonna say? I think that's it. I think that I covered everything. Anyway, I'm still here in Florida. But at the time of recording, I'm not there anymore. Right now, if you're watching After Action Report, I'm back home. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ride some alligators or whatever they do down in Florida, or I mean, whatever we do down here in Florida. See you next time.
Oh, Nat, your commitment to this is superb, and we always love seeing this segment on any of our shows. Thank you for gracing After Action Report with that loveliness.
You are welcome, but a couple of things. Apparently, certain recreational activities are still illegal down in Florida. So what I meant when I said I got high was I was high off of life in Florida. And also, I did not mean to plug AAA Live because I'm going to do it anyway here. So I don't know why I plugged that. But yeah, thanks for letting me do it.
Always. It is a topic of great enjoyment and fascination in any of our C2A chats. So as soon as I heard Call Live was getting cast, I'm like, no, we're not going to let that segment die. It is going to come here because we are the best here.
I'm really the thought of someone who is strictly a fan of this show and who doesn't have 4 hours to spend on Call Live, who has no idea what the segment is, just tune in. And that was their first exposure to that. I love that idea.
Yes, all about the Florida Gators and all that.
Just for the record, I don't remember making that video.
Oh, okay, very good. But one thing that was very accurate there was that we are going to be bringing AAA Live back this week on Thursday, same time, 4 PT, 7 Eastern here. We are going to be covering Lon Harris and Alex Damer, respectively. Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun. We haven't done this show for quite a while. It's going to be fun to be on screen with you as well as Dylan, and hopefully I can keep us out of trouble for the most part. We'll see how We'll see how well I do with that. But that is going to wrap that up. Nat, what other projects do you have going on that you'd like to plug?
Oof. Well, I've got Twitch Tuesdays tomorrow on Twitch at 6 Pacific. So check us out there. Yeah, I don't know who we have on. It's probably just going to be me, Dylan, and Belford. But maybe someone else will show up. I don't know. Where we talk about pretty much everything. It's not Schmoedown. We talk about cheese a lot. Check us out there. I have a show called No Chill with Nat and Dylan, where we are basically a Between Two Ferns, but with Schmoedown competitors. We have an episode coming out this month. Hasn't been planned yet, but it's coming. And also check out Call Live for my segment that you just saw. I do one every week. Apparently, they still let me do it, but I don't know. And also, I'm on Twitter, 90x44.
Yes, all of our handles and all that stuff can be found in the description of this video. You will find me back here every week on Mondays, 7 Pacific, 7 Eastern here. Be sure to also check out Call Live as well for more in-depth conversation. It is a little bit longer, but they do get into the character aspects, the cutscenes, and all that stuff that we don't necessarily cover here on the show, but we are your quick recap to make sure that you are caught up on everything before the first match of this week drops, which will be on Wednesday, unless you're a $10 patron, which you already got the episode earlier today. So please consider becoming a patron, as well as we've got some great pay-per-views coming up. Be sure to be at that $10 patron level or get your tickets at theshmoedownlive.com for individual events. But until next time, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so you can get notified of all the great things that we're doing here on this channel. Until next time, here with Nat, I'm Megs. This has been After Action Report, signing off.